The following program contains content that may not be suitable for children. Parental discretion is advised.
Help women save lives and peacefully end abortion where you live.
I can tell you exactly what would happen. The infant would be delivered. The infant would be kept comfortable. The infant would be resuscitated if that's what the mother and the family desired.
You were serious about that?
Be inspired to change hearts and minds by joining over 1 million volunteers taking part in the global movement happening in your neighborhood.
She says, pray that I can get through this abortion. And I said, oh, no. So she went ahead and went into the abortion clinic. And she just came out. She told us, I'm not going to get the abortion. We just had a baby saved. We had a baby saved in Memphis today. Praise the Lord.
This is the 40 Days for Life podcast with your host, Sean Carney.
Hello, and thank you for joining us today on the 40 Days for Life podcast. I am Sean Carney, the president of 40 Days for Life and your host for this podcast, which is dedicated to helping you end abortion where you live. And with the injustice of abortion, there is a obvious seriousness for those who are seeking to end it through prayer, fasting, through alternatives. And over the years, since we did the first 40 Days for Life campaign outside of this building, our headquarters, the now closed Planned Parenthood, that was in 2004. Since then, we have encountered many bizarre experiences while praying out in front of an abortion facility, and my guess is you have too. And so not tragic, because those happen with every abortion, and not overwhelmingly, joyful, like an abortion worker quitting, but weird. And weird is a very real category, weird and bizarre. And today we will cover that. And I want you to email us your weird or bizarre experiences at podcast@40daysforlife.com. And we have found when we've shared some of these in the past, somehow it motivates more people to go out. I don't know because they want in on the weirdness, which speaks a lot to our society. But definitely if you have any of your own, email us at podcast@40daysforlife.com or post them on the YouTube page. And joining me on this bizarre and weird podcast are people that are not bizarre and weird, particularly Mr. Steve Carlin, who is the opposite of weirdo.
Thank you for that exceptionally sincere introduction, John.
I scripted it last night. I was up all night. And then, of course, Heather Gardner, who's not weird at all.
I could be sometimes, though.
Isn't it the thing is Austin? You're from Austin.
Yeah, I'm
Isn't
from
Austin weird?
Yeah, it is.
Actually, knowing y'all both over the years, you're both kind of weird. Now that I think about it.
Well, okay, that's true. And if you think about it, keep Austin weird. I'm weird because I'm not the Austin weird. So am I keeping Austin weird by not being their kind of weird? I don't know.
Yeah, you're the normal person because you went to A&M.
I got no excuse.
I don't know what to say to you.
Yeah.
So I tell you what's weird that I learned about you today is you grew up a Cubs fan.
Oh, I didn't want that really made public.
Oh.
Well, it's on YouTube.
Yeah.
That does because you hate Chicago, everything Chicago. You hate their politics. You hate their sports teams. You hate the city. You hate everything.
I like their sausage. They've got good sausage in Chicago.
Are you allowed to say that being from Wisconsin? Because isn't that like...
It's common ground. My wife is from Chicago. My
Okay.
first son was born in Chicago. We have to find something that can unite us in this time of great.
that would be meat.
Political division, racial division, social division, economic division. We can unite behind Italian sausage, Polish sausage, the super fans from Saturday Night Live. Chris Farley
Exactly. Yeah, they had a deep affection, which I appreciate for saturated fat.
Yeah.
And Chris Farley having a heart attack or choking on a pork chop is one of the many great memories from my childhood.
How many heart attacks is that? That would make a baker's dozen.
Bob. Yeah, totally. Okay, so this is a fun topic because I think there's so much tension and we're all divided in our culture. And some of these moments, I know for me, humanize each side of the abortion debate.
Yeah.
That's a good word to use, is humanize, because everybody's just kind of like, you're the white bigot patriarch, and you hate us and we hate you, and that's the way it is. And then you have these things that just kind of happen. So Walker Piercy, who we love on the podcast, great author, he has this great line about, somebody walking down the street and you see all these people, but you see no one, and you don't want to talk to them, you don't care about them, and or you're on like a subway and you see, a guy and you're kind of judging him and you think, what a weirdo. And then an earthquake happens and you're crushed and you're under rubble and you look up and it's that guy you were judging on the subway. What goes through your mind? It's just kind of like tragedy always helps. The hurricane. He loves the hurricanes because they bring everybody together, and then right afterwards the tragedy's over and you're just going back to hating everyone. So similarly, we have these moments, and I think I'll start off with one. I don't think I've shared this on the podcast, but Jackson, Mississippi, who essentially gave us Dobbs, had a very hostile pro-abortion crowd, who most people don't realize. You go to California and you're like, where are all the protesters? Then you go to one of these conservative red states and they're everywhere, and they're all wound up when we do an event. So there's probably 400 or 500 people out in front of that now closed abortion facility. And I go, and they knew I was coming, so they're like anti-me. Somebody had a sign that said John Carney's, I forget what it was, hates women or something not very creative. And so I go up, and I'm standing, the Planned Parenthood escorts, and then their nutty followers are behind them, and they're standing like on this, there's like a fence, but it's wrought iron, or it's metal, like a barricade. And there's the stage. So I'm just standing next to the stage. And this guy looks at me and says, "You're Sean Carney." And I said, "Yeah, what's your name?" And he said, "You are," and he just kind of goes off. And he said, "Where did you fly from?" Which is a bizarre thing. Like, "O'Hare, great sushi." I don't know what you're supposed to say. I said, "Houston." I said, "I live in Houston, but I could care less about the Texans. I'm a huge Cowboy fan." And I think this was 2018 or 19. And he said, "Do you think they're going to sign Zeke?" Ezekiel Elliott, their running back, because he was in the middle of the...
He's like,
Sean Carney's the devil.
Do you think
what is your opinion on Cowboys free agency right now? What's Jerry gonna do? And so it was so out of left field. And then of course you go into like sports talk mode. So it's instantly, I'm like, sadly, I think they're gonna sign him and they're gonna overpay him, which happened. And then they ended up cutting him last year. But
Sean's saying he's a prophet.
Well, but the whole point was...
I'm not saying I'm not.
Yeah, but going through my whole mind, I'm like, where is this going? Are we going to get in an argument? Is he going to start yelling? Because he was wound up. He was like the guy, I'm a young male pro-choicer, and I'm protecting this place from the bad people like you. That was the tone. Yeah. I'm the bodyguard.
He really just has too much time on his hands.
Too much time on his hands, and all that was deflated by referencing that I was a Cowboys fan. And it was funny. So we talked about free agency and all that. And afterwards he's like, "Hey, well, have a good night." Like after my talk of saying that this place is going to close and all this stuff, he's like, "Hey, good talking sports with you. Have a good night." And it's just, it was bizarre, but it was funny. And it also shows, number one, I think the value of sports in some strange way in our culture. Mm. But, all of that, you don't hate women if you root for the Cowboys?
So you didn't go out to dinner with him after that, have a talk?
No, I cashed in my chips. It was
Be over. At the Red Lobster if you change your mind.
That's right. Great biscuits. Yeah, I took my winnings and left, but it was one of those walking up. You know how you park your rental car and you walk up to these vigils? You're like, okay, this isn't the average crowd and pro-abortion crowd. And I thought what was funny is the workers could see me talking to him, and they could see the demeanor of both of us. I don't think mine changed, but they saw this like, yeah, Billy's getting them or whatever. And then we're like over there laughing about stuff, and because we're just waiting for the event to start.
Yeah, sometimes you can appreciate their shenanigans a little bit. You can't condone the approach that they take or their cause, but sometimes they make me laugh. I always still think of North Carolina as a red state. I know it's more of a purple state at this point, but I guess it's in between.
Is it blue? Can you say it's blue? Didn't Obama win it twice?
He won it once.
Won it.
That's one of the two that Romney flipped with Indiana.
Okay, he won
But they
it. I knew
just
you
kinda
know
like-
all these.
yeah.
You know all these
Yeah,
nerd stats. And Bush W won it twice,
Yeah, and I think handily.
and then Obama wins it in 08. He loses it in 12.
I think Trump won it narrowly both times, but they've got a Democrat governor, so you kind of have
I didn't
a
know
lot
Trump,
going on
Trump
there.
won it in 2020.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, but I was there. I was speaking in Charlotte, and as far as like the hecklers go, this dude just stood behind me with a sign and an arrow pointing toward me, and it just said, "This guy likes Nickelback."
Is that true?
It's true. Well, it's not true that I like Nickelback. No.
Okay.
No, I mean, I'll admit to previously liking the Cubs before I'll admit to liking Nickelback. But,
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not a Nickelback guy, but
I like Nickelback.
Well, my apologies.
I
Father.
don't care what
No
people
offense.
think of me.
That's hysterical. But that was some kind of insult?
Yes.
Yeah, of course. That's
There are worse obviously, we've been called worse, but that's an odd...
Yeah.
They're kind of the band everybody likes to hate on, right? So I think...
And Florida Georgia Line is the country band that everybody likes to hate on.
Right.
And
I
I like them.
some of their stuff.
I do too, yeah.
I do too. Just like Luke Bryan.
No.
Oh no, not him again.
No.
Oh, man.
This is where I want to do the Sue, like, no.
Yeah, no.
But did you say anything to those guys with the Nickelback sign?
No, they were also pretty wound up, so I decided to just kind of
Yeah.
let it be. But I was also kind of laughing a little bit.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, why not? That's
To
funny.
me, that's up there with "keep your rosaries off my ovaries," which is by far my favorite pro-abortion
Yeah.
phrase because it's like the backhanded compliment to prayer. You know,
It's true.
Like prayer works. The rosary is
true.
dangerous. You know, but also just it's the elementary approach of you are religious, therefore you hate sex and you hate me. You know, and it's just like, but it cracks me up all the time. Keep your rosaries off my ovaries, and it rhymes.
Yeah, it usually also is you're religious, you hate sex, and why do you all have 100 kids?
Yeah.
There seems to be a little bit of missing math on that.
There's no credit. It's somehow children just show up. You know, there's no. The idea of fertility is like this horrible, evil thing.
We're so glad the stork came 10 times and blessed us with 10 children.
Yeah. They just kind of like showed up, even though somehow, I guess, if you're religious, you hate sex. So,
So funny.
for the record, you do not like Nickelback.
I testify, I solemnly swear that I do not like Nickelback.
I haven't heard one of their songs in forever, but I know back in the day I did.
Okay.
I like Nickelback. So
Well, we're a movement of converts.
Ah, there you go. Okay, the one that comes to my mind first and foremost is from Columbia, Missouri.
All right.
The
Yes.
Guild of Silly Heathens. That is
bizarre.
like king of bizarre land. Okay, so the
Give
Guild
a recap.
the Guild of
because
Silly Heathens are they aren't existent apparently.
this is
or
an organization.
They're in
now.
hiding.
This is a name of a group.
They've named their group. I don't know if they've formed a 501c3, but they started showing up to the Columbia, Missouri vigil site, and they would have costumes, and these would be rather grotesque costumes of genitalia, and they would have props as well. I believe they had like a plush sperm that they would like run into the girl with or whoever had the vagina costume.
Yes.
And
it was the oddest version of like a National Geographic documentary on how human life comes into existence.
It makes me think. I know here when we were here at the Coalition for Life, I remember watching videos from Planned Parenthood's website that they would put out of cartoons of like talking animated genitalia.
Right.
And this was their like sex education stuff. But it was really like, here's all these things of contraception you should use.
Right. And one of my many issues with that is that if you get $500 million a year from the government, you are Planned Parenthood, you are professional, you are healthcare, and your sex ed looks like it was made by two perverted 8th graders. who are like, hey, Billy, let's draw this. You know,
Beavis and Butthead.
I never I'm like, aren't you trying to like raise the bar of we are the authority on this issue? And it's like, we're going to draw a wiener. You know, it's just so stupid. It's so stupid.
Hey, Beavis.
Yeah, hey, it is. It's Beavis and Butthead sex ed at its best except
worst.
It's not like the goofballs in Colombia. It's Planned Parenthood. So okay. So they manifest themselves as
like it's okay. It's bizarre, but then on a more serious note, it's sad because they are. This particular vigil site is very close to a couple of schools, elementary. I think an elementary and a junior high. So children are riding by in school buses every day almost.
And kids are at the vigil. They're at the 40 Days for Life part. So. Let's say they're like, no, the pro-life kids are fair game. If you lunatics bring your kids out here, they're gonna see us dressed up as genitalia, and that's the way life goes. But the local elementary schools and the school buses, that's the kind of stuff Planned Parenthood's like.
And I believe Kathy Fork, our wonderful leader there, I believe she said that parents were calling Planned Parenthood complaining.
Awesome.
That were parents that were not part of our vigil, like parents that were of children driving by on school buses or in the car with their own kids. Oh, there's a daycare nearby.
But let's play that out. Let's pause there a little bit and get into that phone call. So let's say you're pro-choice and you're a Democrat and you live in Columbia, Missouri. So you are called, this is why it's so bad for Planned Parenthood. These bizarre, weird things we're talking about are always bad for the abortion industry and can be comical to us. This is highlight number one. So you're pro-choice Missouri lady, you voted for Obama, you hate Trump, and you have to pick up the phone and call Planned Parenthood and say, hey, I just picked little Sally up from school. Someone's outside your business dressed as a sperm. And that has to come out of your mouth. And I think that whole notion, and then there was a vagina guy down at the other end of the driveway. And what is Planned Parenthood going to say? Yes, we're a very diverse group and we have a lot of supporters, people on both sides of the issue. And there's no way to say it. They're like, yeah, I know, we were trying to eat our lunch, but we lost our appetite. Sorry.
There are about 10 or 12 phrases which are just combinations of words that we have used so far in the last 5 minutes. I just never thought would be put together.
No.
And there's the vagina guy.
No, yeah.
No, I would like,
me. This is either going to be one of the greatest podcasts we've ever done or the worst.
We're going to get those calls.
We're going to get those calls. But this is what happens. And it's obviously low percentage. This doesn't occur, everywhere. The what is their name? The heathens?
Guild of Silly Heathens.
The Guild of Silly Heathens.
Now, they haven't been around in quite a while.
They haven't.
I don't know
went
if
away.
COVID, maybe they decided to practice chastity, for COVID's sake.
COVID got rid of the heathens.
No
For what it's worth,
costumes.
they're appropriately named. There's a lot of groups who's like pro-choice, but they don't support real choice for women. But they're silly and they are heathens. There's no doubt that they got the name right.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It's just one of those groups and that it just feels like someone lost a bet. And they're like, hey,
good way, yeah.
If we don't beat Colorado by 10 this weekend, you got to dress up as a vagina. It just sounds completely made up, but it's not. And thankfully they were a one-off. I haven't seen people like that.
Well, I will say that kind of goes in, you probably have a story with this, but this is more of a general, we've all seen this multiple times. Going along with the man wearing a vagina costume is the man holding the sign that says no uterus, no opinion.
Right.
That was always bizarre.
Yes.
And I've mentioned on the podcast before, there was a video that came out many years ago. It is on YouTube or maybe Rumble, of a man from one of the campus outreach events from, I forget which group that did it, Created Equal maybe or something. And they were interviewing a guy who was pro-abortion and holding that sign. And they were like, but if you don't have a uterus, then why can you have opinion? That defeats your sign. And so he went into this most ridiculous, bizarre explanation of how, in fact, he can be holding this sign while not having a uterus.
Because he had a uterus costume?
No, he didn't. This one didn't have a uterus costume. He's saying you can have the
Steve just said because he had a
uterus costume. Exactly.
He had a serious look on his face.
Another tally on the list of phrases that we did not think we would ever utter, or
Teenage
would be
kids
uttered by.
can't watch Dad on this podcast. Let's make a note.
His explanation was basically he supports the right to have the sign that says no uterus, no opinion. So he, by being a man, is not having an opinion on the issue. He just supports holding this sign to say no uterus, no opinion. It was stupid. It was bizarre.
It's bizarre
to go with the theme.
So this is why one of the many unfortunate things about the death of journalism, because we get asked about pro-life kooks, and I have no issue with that. Or we get asked about in the 90s somebody bombed a clinic, and I'm like, yeah, they did. That was horrific. They killed people in the name of pro-life. It's absurd. But can somebody ask Alexis McGill Johnson, the CEO of Planned Parenthood, is this the goal? Like, are you proud of this? Is this a problem for your local clinics, or is this just people being people?
That varies. That depends on the manager, from what I can tell, with a lot of these different places.
That highlights how poorly run they are, because the goal of an abortion facility is to make money. It's not reproductive rights, it's not healthcare, it's none of that. All of that feeds into a bottom line, and we know, as we sit here, if the bottom line goes away, they close the abortion facility. These are business people, and the best Planned Parenthood directors are business people. Their best CEOs, like Cecile Richards, business people. Gloria Felt, who was their CEO in 2005, 2006, she did the I Had an Abortion t-shirt. She was an ideologue and a ding-dong. And so they fired her. She didn't make any money. They were going down, and they hired Cecile and took off for 12 years. I don't understand. They can't want this. We're out there. The weirdo genitalia people are out there. It's already hard just in a town like the size of Columbia, which is like the size of College Station, where you just, hey, the university's here and they're kind of liberal, but it's a conservative area. We kind of got to justify our existence. And then you get this circus outside your business.
Yeah.
We should talk about Toledo, Ohio, I think.
Tell us about Toledo.
Toledo's where we saw, I think, our favorite anti-40 Days for Life sign when Sue Thayer went there years ago, God rest her soul, and they were holding the sign that said, "The real fake news, Sue Thayer and Shabby Johnson." They didn't actually convert.
Yes, I remember that.
I wasn't there to see it. Sue was. She loved it. She came back with a photo of the sign. We can.
Abby sent me that photo that day.
Sue sent the photo to Abby, and Abby loved it.
Yeah.
And
oh my God.
And they're always up for a good time out there. When I was in Toledo, they're playing like this heavy metal music and trying to drown out the speakers, which is, it is what it is. It wasn't a big deal and it wasn't that threatening. But the thing that I really enjoyed was they had one of their protesters had this sign and it said, "No horsing around with repro rights." And then he had this horse head mask on.
Yeah.
It was like the funniest thing I've ever seen.
Memorable.
And then
it was like a combo of like cartoon goofiness meets The Godfather.
Yes, 100%. And I brought my son Peter on that trip with me, and then for Christmas I got the horse head mask from Peter.
Oh,
and it is
Peter.
very difficult to see through the little eye slits, which is a good thing, because if it was easier to see, I would wear that thing always.
Why was it a horse?
Because no horsing around with repro rights.
That's it.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't make that connection.
It's a sweet mask.
That's
I like
gold.
it.
That's Peter, and that was years ago, right?
Yes.
He's a smart kid. That's funny. That's a funny gag gift. But the costumes are always bizarre. The bizarre / tragic, I can get my words straight here, is when we see the priest, nun, bishop, pastor costumes.
That's common
too.
Well, the unfortunately the most well-known of that is the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence.
Yes.
Don't Google.
Yes.
And they started in California, and then they were honored by the Dodgers, and we did a whole podcast on that. But so here's, to me, I don't mind that as much. I'm offended as a Catholic, right? Mm-hmm. But who cares about getting offended? don't you have to mock it? Like, aren't they going to the heart of the matter? We say it's prayer and fasting, and that the supernatural and our spiritual life can dictate reality on earth, and which is what we've believed since, Abraham. So they're giving credibility. They're going after the heart of it, which is religion's the problem. Faith in Christ, faith in God. That is the real issue. So we'll mock that. And, a couple years ago, it was about probably a decade ago, somebody wrote a blog. I didn't know who these people were, but they were like atheists for life or something. And I guess they were so mad that I did an interview and I said the pro-life movement essentially is a religious movement. And I was saying it from a practical standpoint of the largest organizations are religious. You go to the March for... If you took a secularist to the March for Life and were like, don't worry, this is not a religious event, they'd be like, you're kind of full of it because, it's just... And we shouldn't apologize for that.
Right, yeah.
The abolitionist, the civil rights movement. But the abortion industry knows that we're a religious movement. And things like this highlight that. We're going to mock priests. We're going to mock nuns. And I put it in the 40 Days book, but that Reno abortion doctor just made big signs that said God loves abortion, had a lot of critical signs of priests and the scandals and just all of that. And it, our local vigil leader was so distraught over it. And I said, but... don't you think that's going to deter some people from walking in? They don't want to hear about priests molesting kids when they're going in for their abortion. This is just not, it's not professional. Mm-mm. And the guy was a nut, and he set up big speakers and played what he said was satanic music. And it was blaring. And I'm like, you go get your foot worked on, you go to the orthopedic surgeon, you don't have this circus.
And just this past fall campaign, we saw, I believe, St. Paul, Minnesota? Dr. Haywood was speaking, and there was a pro-abortion woman with an intercom trying to scream over their rally the whole time, saying, thank God for abortion. We've heard that before, which that's bizarre. Thank God for abortion. God loves abortion, so...
And we did the podcast where we proved that wasn't true. That for all the talk about like the pro-choice clergy and the Christian women get abortions, it's really just not true. There's a small minority of actual church-going Christians who support abortion. It doesn't really happen. But in terms of the deterrent, the bad behavior that actually deters their own clients, I'm going to say, if you're listening to the audio version, this is a great opportunity to check out the video version, because I went to Buffalo. And Buffalo is an odd place for the campaign because they've got this one facility and this birthing center in the front, abortions in the back.
Yeah, it's weird.
And I went out, and the event was going to start at like 7 o'clock p.m. or something to that effect. So we got out like an hour early, and they're kind of showing me, here's where the women go in for the births, here's where they go in for the abortions, here's the bubble zone that we can't, buffer zone that we can't go in. They're just giving me the lay of the land. And this woman dressed like a fairy comes like prancing down the street and like sprinkling dust all over the place. And that was just a sign, like, I don't know what this is about, but something's going to be weird.
Well, let me clarify real quick. Is the fairy pro-life or?
No, okay. No, this is we didn't know at the point.
This is a pro-choice fairy.
It seemed likely that was the case. We didn't know. It could have been, it was October. It could have been Halloween.
What kind of, is this like Tinkerbell?
Yes.
Okay.
It could have been just a Halloween costume, but it was just sort of like, I think things are going to be odd tonight. The abortion facility, by the time the event
once a fairy shows up, Steve's like, that's out of the ordinary.
Yeah, don't see that every day. Once the event started, the abortion facility threw what they called a circus disco out on the sidewalk, where they had a DJ out there blaring music. It's dance party for hours. They had a bubble machine, and this dude like juggling the fire stick. And
awesome.
So if it wasn't a pro-abortion party, it would have been a great party. I would have paid cover charge to get into that. But we'll put some of the video up if you're watching the video version, because it was a sight to behold. I've never seen anything like it. I don't know if I ever will.
They really are trying to bring a circus to the sidewalk. That's amazing.
And this is where you can tell when they're really shooting themselves in the foot, because the media come out, they cover it, and then they don't actually cover it.
Right.
We had in Madison this campaign, we had a counter protest, and they're out there and they're screaming F the church for like an hour straight, and it's just a freak show. They're trying to make it a freak show. That's not like a commentary that, name calling. They're trying to create a freak show. And all 3 TV stations were out, and they're like, and there were some people from both sides, and the crowds were this size, and they vowed that they're going to continue to speak out for what they believe. Like, okay.
Yeah, what are they chanting? Let's go, Brandon.
If we were out there chanting F Planned Parenthood for an hour, I'm pretty sure it would have made the headline.
Completely. But I can safely say, and I'm going to criticize our own movement in a moment, so I'll get this out of the way, but we don't do that. I've never heard a pro-lifer cuss at somebody at a vigil or get mad or...
I've heard homeless individuals that have walked by our vigil in Austin who are pro-life, or maybe they're just inebriated, shout obscenities at Planned Parenthood.
Okay.
But...
Okay, that's the first time I've heard of that, but that's a bizarre, for the Bizarre podcast example. But I'm saying volunteers, leaders, I'm at a vigil...
Yeah.
I have not had a moment where, excluding the crazy people that would go out to Colorado with the megaphone, who would yell, "You're going to burn in hell," but they're not with us. I'm saying like a 40 Days for Life person or volunteer. I've just never had the feeling where I'm like, they need to stop talking. And, so anyways, with that said, the greatness of our movement, I can't disclose the location.
Ooh, this is going to be good.
The guy could be a listener, for all I know. And I can't, this has happened to me multiple times, so I'm going to keep it generic. Okay, I go to the vigil. I speak. So y'all have done this a million times. I've done it a million times. It's very common. This was a great location. Tons of people. Big Planned Parenthood. Not Texas. But this has happened a lot. And someone who is extremely well-meaning has an unbelievable idea that I must carry out as the leader of 40 Days for Life.
You're the chosen one.
I'm the chosen one.
You're the anointed one.
And they have the silver bullet that will end abortion. And I would love the silver bullet to end abortion. So I'm open to all ideas.
Everything's on the table here.
Everything's on the table. This is a very bad idea that has no chance of success, that somebody is way too passionate about, that's awful. I'm not going to say that. So I politely say, thank you, send me an email. It's like, I'm blowing you off. It sounds like you're blowing me off. I am. But
politely.
Remember when Jerry Seinfeld's apartment gets robbed and the cop comes over and he does like the investigation? He's like, okay, we'll let you know if we find anything. And Jerry goes, do you ever find anything? And he goes, no. That's what this is. So are you going to email me back? Never. No. This is a bad idea. This is an odd person just from using human skills. This is a socially awkward person, and this is an aggressive person and a passionate person, not a dangerous person. Okay, so I'm like, yeah. So he persists, and then I talk. He persists, and then I talk, and half the people are gone. He persists, then I talk, and everybody's gone except like a few of the local leaders. Bad area of town. So my rental car is down the street, and it's getting late at this point because I can't get rid of this person. And also I'm just talking to the other people. So I'm kind of trying to attach myself to everybody who's there. It's like, hey, you have my book. You want me to sign it? No, shut up. Give me the book. I need something to do. Everybody's kind of gone, and the leader like hugs me, and I don't really see him anymore. And so I walk off. I'm like gonna bolt to my rental car, and he like pops out of the like behind a tree or something. He's like Michael Myers, and so he's following me, and he's like, "No, you don't understand." And once you get into "no, you don't understand," there's no recovery. So I don't know how to handle this because it's like 9:45 at night at this point, and this is a bad part of town. I'm flying out the next morning at like 6 a.m. So I'm like, thank you, but I've got to go. I got to call my wife. Like, now you got to just throw your family and your kids under the bus. My wife is in the hospital, or just something. Oh, look, one of the kids was in a car accident. You just have to do something. And I get in I accidentally hit the key chain
alarm?
twice.
Oh.
So it opens all the doors. Because I was like, well, I'll unlock my door. I'll get in.
I don't like where this is going.
No.
I'll get in and I'll wave and then I'll drive off. And I accidentally hit it twice and I get in the car and boop, he opens the door and pops in and puts on his seatbelt.
Oh, crap.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
So I have never done this before. I haven't done it since. I look at him and I say, get out of my rental car. And he jumped out. and then I drove off.
What was it that he was trying to? You can't say the details of what he was trying to get you to do.
No.
He just had the
Somebody
silver bullet.
actually,
We have to just keep in suspense.
I can't tell you. I'll tell you when the recording stops. You're gonna email me privately. I'll tell you what it is. But this became a famous.
This guy is listening, and he's gonna email.
I don't know if he's listening. He pops up every 7 years, and somebody will be like,
okay.
But this is like 08, 09. This is old school 40 Days for Life, and this became famous in like our team calls. You know how we sometimes laugh about stuff. This was like a thing. And staff members were like, hey, I saw so-and-so, I gave him your home address. You know, that kind of fun stuff. So it was funny, but
he wants to send you a Christmas card.
I did everything possible. I was really nice.
Yeah.
I was really patient. I did everything. And then I'm like, you can't get in my rental car. So I was like, I've got to, even if he says Sean's an a-hole or whatever, I had to risk that at that point. I was like, if you don't get in my car, I'm going to have to beat the crap out of you.
A certain line had been crossed.
I didn't know what else to do.
I have to say, though, for the ladies, this is more, you experienced what women experience more often.
Yeah.
Because we're supposed to be more polite, and and it's like, oh, well, then you're a you-know-what if you're rude or you don't accept this.
I kind of felt like that. I guess that's a good analogy. Like we were in high school, and he was like the creepy guy that wouldn't leave me alone.
That's
he's like,
the analogy.
We're meant to be together.
Yeah,
and
that's the analogy right there.
There was that guy was in college here, and I was dating Mary Lisa, and he was older, so I was a freshman, and so she had a freshman boyfriend, and she was a junior, and he was like a grad student, and he used himself in third person, and he was talking to me. Let's say his name was Sam. It wasn't. And he's like, real shame. I thought Mary Lisa was the one for Sam. It was like a Seinfeld. And he's like, Sam and Mary Lisa would have made a great family. Sam and Mary Lisa. And he knows we're dating. And I'm like, but you know she's not with you. She's with me. Like, I didn't know what else to say. It was kind of like that.
Real shame.
Yeah. I feel very confident.
Why do they call it Ovaltine?
Yeah.
The glass is round.
The glass is round. It is. It's so that's my little so in all fairness, it's not always the heathens or the pro-abortion fairies who are the weird ones.
Oh, so, trust me, I know. Go Steve.
Is that the most recent time you've run into this Buffalo Bill from Silence of the Lambs guy?
The guy who got in my car? Mm-hmm. No, I saw him 2 other times.
Awesome.
And I felt like it was like investing in Netflix like in 2007. Like I feel like that first encounter just paid dividends forever because he never tried to jump in my rental car ever again. Now he still came up to me and was like, but the second time I saw him, which was like 6 years later, 5 years, he like, hey, like he like approached me.
So he's at least aware. Okay, there we go. Yeah. That's good.
You're not meeting him at the Red Lobster either.
No. And, he's somebody that maybe he just went through a weird phase of life. You always give him the benefit of the doubt. I don't know. Maybe he's like an accountant now and he's married and has 8 kids or something. But he was definitely single and had been for a while. Because he was in like his late 40s, which was a red flag.
This isn't a creepy thing, but it's just kind of a funny thing that makes me feel like a big jerk. I was at a vigil one time and this lady brought me some food. And it was like, it's not a weird food. It's a food that like almost everybody, particular food that almost everybody, I'm going to keep it a little vague so I don't offend anybody.
I'm like, what was it, baked?
Yes.
Okay.
It's a food that everybody likes. I don't like it all. Can't stand it. Hate it. Don't like it at all. So she's like, and I baked this for you? Oh, thank you so much. That's so kind. But I didn't have any paper plates or plastic forks, so you're going to have to eat it right here before you go. So,
in front of her with your hands?
She had a fork, because that's one of the reasons I had to give her the fork back before I got on the road.
And the dish that she brought it in.
Yes, the dish that she brought it in.
Take back with her.
I love it.
I had this for like 3 seconds.
Was this in the southern part of
No.
America? Okay.
Well, it's
So I'm like, darling, you look hungry.
yeah, it wasn't that.
Okay.
It wasn't that. It was for 3 seconds. I thought about, it's 40 days for life. Do I play the fasting card? And I thought, I will definitely go to hell if I say I can't eat this food that I don't like because I'm fasting, when if it was like a chocolate chip cookie, I totally would have eaten
What
it.
if you just mentally and spiritually started a fast at that moment and said, I'm not eating for the rest of the day or half of tomorrow?
It would have been...
This is, of course, to justify getting out of the creepy cookies or whatever.
Yeah, I don't think I could have looked myself in the mirror, so
Okay.
I just stood there and I ate it, every bite.
You're a better person than me. I think I could.
So okay, I have another bizarre thing that's kind of like that, but I am terrified of small planes.
Oh.
I don't know if y'all knew that.
I guess it does. It fits.
Yeah. What does that mean?
Like, you don't like motorcycles, you don't like that type of thing.
Yeah, and I think, and you can you send in your emails, but this is documented, and now my kids believe it, and Mary Lisa's like, yeah, you're right, and I've mentioned this to a lot of people. If you drive a motorcycle that is not a Harley Davidson, okay? So the Harley Davidson people aside, if you drive a motorcycle that's not a Harley Davidson, you're an awful driver. And you're reckless, and you should be locked up. And when you see somebody like zoom past you, it's never a Harley.
What's the bizarre connection here?
Sorry. That's just another thing.
Harley's a good
against...
Wisconsin company.
All right. Yeah, there you go. So I fly up to Michigan, and I speak for this group. It's in the middle of nowhere. And they picked me up and drove me far or whatever. And the night after my talk, they're like, oh, that was... No, it was before my talk at the reception. They're like, well, you can connect to O'Hare from here. We'll book you a flight. And I booked my own. So I'm like, oh, I missed out. I didn't know they had an airport. And I said, that'd be great. That'd be great. Thanks for the plane ticket. And they're like, yeah, Bill, tomorrow you're flying Sean. And I'm like, oh no. And I saw La Bamba way too young. So I'm La Bamba. I'm O'Donna, I'm going to go down.
Wow.
And so I fear like cloaks me, like actual fear. And so I'm just like out of it. Okay. And the guy comes over, he's like, oh yeah, I've got a single prop and all this stuff. And because I'm a weather freak, it's gonna sleet that night. It's really cold, which I kind of thought was cool, because it's like October, November, and it's just all the thoughts are coming. So I give my talk. I'm totally distracted. Who knows what I said? Oh my gosh. And I talk to everybody, and I don't know how to get out of it. And I go to the hotel, and I call Mary Lisa like a scared little kid, and I was like, I cannot do it. I cannot get on that plane. I know it's ridiculous. I'll be fine with them calling me a wuss or whatever, but I'm not getting on the plane with Bill. I think that was his actual name. And I said, I'm sure he's a great pilot. He probably went to Top Gun, but I'm not getting on the plane. And she said, you have to call the pregnancy center director and tell her. Yeah. I said, I know. That's like the only way. So I was like terrified dialing the number because I didn't know. I just have to say I'm afraid of getting on the plane. So I call and I said, I'm so sorry. Y'all are so generous. I said, this is going to sound so ridiculous, but I said, I'm afraid of small planes. I can't get on that plane tomorrow. And she's like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I don't even think of that. Of course, she was great. Yeah. Like salt of the earth. But that was the most miserable 5 hours of any like speaking thing I've ever done in my life. And it had nothing to do with who's in the room or media or anything. It was all, I have to fly in the morning. And,
So that's kind of funny that you say that because I just got kind of blindsided by something in the Carlin household a couple of weeks ago. My son has this friend who wants to be a pilot, and he's like, Dad, I'm going to go with Simon. We're going to do this thing like on this, like with this like aviation guy. I'm like, okay, cool. Like, let us know if you're home for dinner. And so he comes home like, hey, what did you do? How'd it go? He's like, well, great. The guy took off in Sauk City, and then I flew us back to Wanakee, and I landed.
What?
And I was like, wait, the guy showed you how you would land a plane? no. Like he had his hands on the thing and you had your hands on
Yeah.
No. So it led me to believe that either something dramatically irresponsible happened or it's a lot easier to fly a plane than I previously believed.
I'm going to go with the former. That's crazy.
And of course, Mary Lisa, she kind of laughs at this because she's like, you fly all the time. And I have no fear of flying. No fear.
But
and
you don't like the puddle hoppers, as they call them.
Yeah, I don't even mind that.
You don't mind that?
The twin prop, they're not my favorite, but you can land those in like a cornfield. Here's what I like. Corporate logos that could pay for my family when I die.
Yeah.
And Bill, God love him, when he crashes in the frozen pond, I'm just like, and I'm like Leonardo DiCaprio at the end of Titanic. I'm like, this is it,
Never let go, Bill.
Yeah, but United Airlines goes down and I'm there. It's like, all right, kids are going to college.
And even if they're not solvent, the government needs those airlines to run, so they'll bail them out.
Exactly. It's just guaranteed. And so remember when I freaked you out? We were at Six Flags.
Yeah, I remember that very well.
we were getting on the Texas Giant, and I mentioned how the poor lady had died like 5 or 6 years ago or 10, whatever it was at the time. And of course, I know how to get you all wound up.
You do, yeah.
So you get out your phone and you read the article, and it
grotesque.
It ends with, and most of the body was unrecovered. Like it's this horrible thing.
Oh my gosh.
And I said, yeah, but I found an article and they changed it to where they added seatbelts, so we're good.
Yeah.
And Steve is like freaking out, and I said, Warner Brothers owns Six Flags. I mean, they make Batman. They got tons of money. I was like, Laura and the kids will be great.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that one, I'm usually not a scared of roller coasters guy, but that one I wish I didn't have a phone and I could have, Sean's joking, right?
Mm-hmm. And I said, I'm serious.
Yeah, you
will. The other thing is like, let's say you would have flown out and died that day. I would have had a guilty conscience because I didn't make you fully aware of the risk as we got on.
Yeah, that makes sense. It makes a lot of sense.
We should probably get back to the...
Let's hear about the snake story.
All right. Dan Miller, who is our wonderful leader in Milwaukee, Dan is 6'9", right?
I think 6'7".
He's 6'7". Okay. Big
I
guy.
think once you're above 6.5, it's all the same.
It doesn't matter. He is very intimidating looking, but he's a teddy bear. But he's the one that, when he was invited to go out to a 40 Days for Life to pray, he said he'd rather have teeth pulled with no painkillers than to do it. Ended up leading a campaign. Dan has like babies named after him. He's the godfather of saved babies. Just unbelievable, iconic leader. He had a guy bring a massive snake out to the vigil, draped over his shoulders, and walk around as if life was normal.
Yeah, it was like a python or a boa constrictor, something like.
I think it was yellow. We put it in the book. But
okay.
It was like a big, creepy looking. Like he went over to Africa or like Central America and like dug it out of a river and carried it to.
Like it seems to be at least black market.
Oh yeah, it wasn't. He didn't go to PetSmart.
Yeah, like you hear about guys where they've got like a pet lion, and you're like, how does this happen?
But the snake guy was pro-life.
Was he? I thought he was there to intimidate.
Oh,
you're right. He's there to like.
I was gonna say. I
yeah,
would think
the whole
that
point was, if you keep praying the rosary, I'm gonna have my snake eat you. It was kind of that subtle thing.
Yeah.
Well, there's a reason we have visuals of Mary crushing the head of Satan. So there you go.
Crushing the head of the snake.
Of the snake, yeah.
Yeah, that is a bizarre story. There's not a lot like that.
Did they stick around for a while, like at the vigil? What did Dan do?
I don't know. Dan has a lot of interesting stories that they just kind of like, yeah, that happened.
All right.
This is not quite so sensational of a bizarre story, but one of the things that when I was fairly new at 40 Days for Life, just as a volunteer, we were out and Planned Parenthood had a birthday party for one of its staff members. And you see people bringing in birthday cake, birthday balloons, and there was a certain degree of irony in that seemed to be completely lost on them. But that made me kind of wonder, the scene in Unplanned where they have the baby shower, did that happen?
Yeah.
That really happened?
I was out there. That was the only time I really got angry at Abby, like when she worked at Planned Parenthood. because she did stuff to annoy us. And I guess, yeah, it was, we took it so many ways that probably aren't true. Like they're trying to stick it to us or it's in your face.
Yeah.
But really they probably just wanted to gather somewhere and have a baby shower, and the office is the easiest thing. Like
and they totally separated because it was on an abortion day.
It was after the last woman left after doing 30 abortions.
They're able to kind of create that mental division of like, but this is a wanted baby.
Right.
So it wasn't a thumb in the eye kind of thing.
But of course, we don't know this is happening. So we're out there, we're loading our stuff. Mary Lisa was out there too. We were married, but we didn't have kids. Or no, we did have.
Was she pregnant in the movie? They showed that they're both pregnant. And
Mary Lisa's pregnant with Bailey.
But okay, yeah.
Mary Lisa's pregnant.
Because I remember they were both talking about being due around the same time.
Right.
And so
because Grace was born in late November and Bailey is December 1st.
Mm-hmm,
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So Mary Lisa's pregnant. We did have Bridget, and who's whatever she was, 6 months or something, and we're loading the stuff. And one of the staff members who had left comes back. And we thought, well, they're done for the day. Why has she come back? And she got out. She had balloons and cake. I think in the movie it's Abby. They do have the balloons, but the balloons is what I remember. And when I watched the movie the first time before it came out, I was like, oh, gosh, I remember that. Like that was a sad, sad state of affairs. But that actually did happen. They had a baby shower at Planned Parenthood after doing multiple abortions. And once the last girl left, once the abortion doctor left, because he had no interest in participating in the baby shower, that happened. And of course, that's not on the weird, bizarre list, but it's parties at abortion clinics are a thing.
Yeah.
I think it's bizarre.
I do too.
A baby shower or a birthday party at Planned Parenthood.
No. I'm saying like for the podcast, it's a deeply saddening thing. Mm-hmm. It's not like Sean's scared of flying on a little plane or the goofball vagina guys.
Mm-hmm.
That's like, that's kind of weird. Like, but there's no jokes to make about
it's a sad bizarre, not a we can laugh about it bizarre.
Yeah, it's not a we can laugh about it bizarre. But I do think these other ones, like if you listening or watching this, send yours in on any level of weird or bizarre at podcast at 40daysforlife.com, because the reason we share these is because it makes, as I mentioned at the very beginning of the podcast, there's this tension of abortion and everybody's kind of stiff, and we've got all these DOJ issues and we've got freedom of speech things, and those are serious and we're going to fight them in court and win. But the majority, 99% of 40 Days for Life campaigns are uneventful, and if something happens, sometimes it's really funny. I forgot to mention at the first campaign out here in 2004, I was out at like 2 a.m. with the Knights of Columbus, and we're sitting here and we're kind of like dozing off, and a motorcycle, not a Harley, so one of the idiots, came down and just skidded out in the middle of the road. No one was around, and he rolled. It looked like something out of a Tom Cruise Mission Impossible movie. It was unbelievable, and we're just like trying to get our phones to call 911. And it was the most violent accident I've ever seen live. And the guy rolled like 25 yards. And he popped up and he's like, I'm good. And he got on. You're like, you need any help? And we ran out. He's like, no. And I think he was drunk.
Yeah, I was like, he didn't want the police there.
Yeah, because there was no pause. I mean, he got up like he was doing football drills or something and sprinted back to his motorcycle and got it up. And I kept waiting for the cops. Like, is he being chased? But he wasn't.
So he looked fine at the moment, but when he sobered up, he was probably going to be in some pain.
Totally.
Ugh.
And then, but what he's going to remember is seeing the vigil. Because we're the only people around at 2:30 in the morning. So that was the first bizarre thing that ever happened to me at a vigil. So if you have some, please email them at podcast@40daysforlife.com or put them on YouTube. Feel free to send us, I guess, any feedback on this podcast. We covered a lot of different realms of current American society. And so feel free to comment on that. And as a reminder, the devotional, which continues to sell so well, is available at 40daysforlifegear.com. We made it as cheap as possible. I think it's $11 on the website for one copy. If you buy bulk copies, it cuts it over 50%. You get the book for $5. So we've gotten a lot of good feedback. You can use that any time of year as a 40-day devotional reflecting on the life of Christ. So be sure to snag that at 40daysforlifegear.com. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Heather, two non-weird, non-bizarre people.
And be sure to comment on what baked goods you will bring to Sean and Steve next time you see them.
Bring Steve some kind of creepy 4-day-old half-eaten casserole. That is the assignment for everyone. I'd probably eat that, actually. Somebody bring me a 4-day-old lasagna. I'm going to crush it in my rental car. Okay.
With the friend who joins you in your rental
car.
Yeah,
with the creepy guy. Okay, please rate, review, share this podcast, and we will see you next time.